3, 2, 1. You're live. On 1. Oh. 2, 1. Live on the next one. And we're live on this one. Okay, hello everybody, we're live. I just want to share this and then we'll get into what we're going to do tonight. Just a little bit of sculpting, but I want to quickly flip over and share this in a couple of places quickly. Just will take me a second to do that while everybody tunes in. Usually it takes a couple of minutes for everyone to be able to tune in. Anyway, so I'll use that time quickly to share this video. And while I'm doing that, if you guys have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them in the chat. On the side, I'm broadcasting on YouTube and Facebook, so I will be reading comments from both. So if you don't see them in the side wondering, it's because I'm answering one from another broadcast. I just broadcast simultaneously from the same camera and it seems to work pretty well. All right, so just trying to make sure everybody's in here. Oh, I forgot to go live on the last one. Okay, perfect. Just give me one more second. I just want to share this to one more place and then I'm going to show you guys what I'm working on. So, one more quickly. All right. Oh. Okay. So, let me just make sure again that I've got it set up. All right, perfect. So I'm working on a few different things. Basically, I was going to work on this small sculpture here of the EPI Ducks sculpture. Very weird name. Very hard name to say. But anyway, it's kind of cool. It's something new for me to work on because it's so bird-like. It's pretty much like sculpting a chicken or a turkey. So anyway, I just got to mix up a little clay. I brought in a couple other sculptures to show you guys as well, because last week when I did a live video, I had some questions about some other projects that I was working on. So I'm going to show everybody that as well. So, but I'm just going to mix this clay. Like I said, while I'm doing that, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. I'll try to explain anything to do with the sculpting. So just got to mix this up. So the first thing I do, and it's actually good that I forgot to mix this before the video, so I'll explain it now and you can see it. This clay here is actually two types of super sculpey. It's a half and half of firm and the regular sculpting. So that's what I mix together. I find that the regular sculpey is better for detail, but the firm sculpey is actually a little bit more durable and stronger. But it's also hard to work with. So because it's too stiff. So that's why I mix the two together. So that's what I'm doing right now. as far as this guy goes, I actually got quite a bit done on him today. I got the legs and the feet partially done. Pretty much added a whole layer of clay to the body. So what I'm going to do now is just kind of add a little bit of clay to the arms and maybe even up to the hands, and just kind of get that worked into the body. Figure out exactly how I'm going to go about doing that. So that's what I'm going to start doing as soon as I get this mixed up. All right. It's really stiff. Oh, Jack. Hey, Jack, how's it going? Yeah, this is the thing right here, actually, is the gray firm Sculpey can be also very hard to mix. So, but it should only take a minute or two to mix it up. All right. So this creature here is pretty weird. I don't know, I'll spin him around this way and see if you guys can see the lower jaw area on him. I'll just see if I can bring it in a little bit closer and then tilt it down. There we go. That's better. All right. It's kind of weird. His lower jaw actually is longer than the upper jaw, and has these very weird teeth that stick out on an angle, which is really weird. I'm not exactly sure what the purpose of that was. I'm still trying to figure that out. That's why I think sculptures are really cool, because about how it would have lived, what its behavior would have been like, and when you're seeing it in 3 dimensions, it kind of, helps to give you an idea. I know one thing that they figure that this guy would have been a tree climber, so which is kind of a weird thing. I'm not sure exactly what he'd be climbing trees. I guess mainly because he's so small. Maybe that was his defense mechanism to get away from larger predators. There's actually a documentary called Planet Dinosaur, and there's actually a segment that shows this guy in it. I believe it's the segment with the of course now I forgot the name. It has the giant sauropods in it and some really really large frogs. It's actually kind of a weird episode of it. Okay, Jack's asking, has their prey been identified? Not that I know of, but I haven't actually read the journal entry yet. I do want to read that article because I'm very curious. I'm very curious to know that myself. I think I actually was looking through pictures and saw it chasing bugs, so it was probably an insect eater. That's that'd be pretty much a given, because based on its size and the kind of insects that would have been living at the time, it's entirely plausible that insects, maybe very small mammals as well, I would imagine. They obviously would have to be really small. But yeah, it would have been after the mammals as well. I'm just gonna throw this clay, in my pasta maker quickly, because it actually helps to mix it. A pasta maker is a really good investment if you're sculpting all the time, because it's good for mixing the clay quickly. And it's also good for when you're putting layers of clay on to get nice even layers. So that's why I like to use a pasta maker. It just makes things a lot easier, and they're very cheap to buy. I don't necessarily think that you need to buy the actual Sculpey brand. I think Michael's actually has a cheaper brand now that you can get. But yes, definitely a good investment. All right, so we're almost mixed up with clay here, and then we're going to get started on this guy. All right, there we go. So close. Okay, I'm going to actually rip a smaller piece off, then mix it because we won't need very much. I'm going to pull this back a little bit, and then I'm going to raise the camera up for a minute, and I'll show you guys a couple other things I'm working on right now. First thing, someone was asking me last week about Allosaurus. So I'm just going to move this guy out of the way. Actually, I'll tilt back down a little bit for a minute. But I'm going to move him out of the way. And I'm going to bring this Allosaurus up. So this here is a pair of 1/20th scale Allosaurus that I'm also working on. This one's kind of a new concept for me because two things. I'm using a 3D printed skull for these ones because I wanted to get the skulls as accurate as I possibly could. And the other thing is, this is a different kind of clay. It's called monster clay. It's actually really cool stuff. The nice thing about this stuff is it's kind of a mixture of an oil base, like a Chevant, mixed with a wax clay. So it has the properties of both. Actually, when I start out using this clay on certain projects, I work from a crock pot. I just have all the clay in there, and it's melted, and that way I can bulk up an animal pretty quick just by smearing on the clay. So it allows me to rough it out in a lot less time. And again, it's reusable. So you can, once you're finished, if you're going to mold and cast, you can actually tear this down and then use it for another sculpture. So this is actually going to be a nesting pair. This one here will be laying down, and there'll be a nest in the middle, and then this one will be standing up, keeping an eye out. So it should be interesting. Most people, or well, a lot of sculptures that I've seen have kind of like a more active pose, running, hunting, stuff like that. So I figured I'd take it the other way and kind of do something that you don't see that often, which is the idea of a nesting pair. So, but that one's a little far off. This is just kind of a basic start, but all right, now I have to tilt the camera because I have a really big one to show you guys. And this is the one I was working on last week, which I've actually gotten quite a bit farther on. hopefully I can get this whole thing into the camera. Let's hope. I don't want to set it up on the... There we go. And I can spin it around without... So you can see this is the 1/15 scale Dinosaurus. It's huge. I wish I had something to show you for comparison that you guys would know, but it's, well, you can see by my hand, it's a pretty big piece. So it's pretty much done. Everything's done on it now. It's actually been made into pieces. You can't see where all the cuts are, but last week you saw that it was in pieces. The only thing left to do on this guy now is to work on his head. So I got to come in here, put all the detail work on the head, and then that's it for that. So I'm actually pretty excited about that. And then he'll be ready for molding and casting. So shouldn't be that long now. I think by next week he'll be completely ready to go. And then we'll get him molded and casted and made into a model kit. So we're going to set him right out of the way right now. We're going to pull this back out. We're going to get this guy back into the picture and start working. Missed here. There's a little spot at the bottom of the leg. Oh, good. Chris, you're on. Hey, buddy, how's it going? Henry. Yep, he looks great. Thanks, buddy. Yeah, it's getting there. It's getting there. I'm actually hoping that this guy's done fairly soon. At the rate he's going, it shouldn't take long. So, actually, seeing as Chris is on here, it's a good time to talk about something else too. Chris is also a sculptor from Canada, and he does a lot of the Jurassic Park sculptures, and he's really good at it. He does maquettes, and he's also doing a life-size T-Rex in his shop, which is pretty cool, or a half-size T-Rex, sorry, but still pretty huge. But anyway, me and him were talking and thinking about maybe doing like a paleo art podcast. We're still trying to figure out how to do that, so let me know what you guys think about that. And I think last week there was another guy on here who does some pretty cool work, and he said he would also be interested, so it might be a pretty cool paleo art podcast coming up soon. I'm just not really up on the tech of it. I'm trying to do a little research on how to get it done correctly, and I'm trying to figure out if it should be live or pre-recorded. I think live would be the best, so that way we could take questions, and it'd be kind of cool. You could see what we're all working on simultaneously. So I've seen some other people do it on YouTube, and I think they do it with Google Hangouts, but I still haven't figured out how to get Google Hangouts to broadcast live. And so that's the last thing I need to figure out. But anyway, that would be I think that would be pretty awesome. I know there's a few podcasts out there on Jurassic Park or some on dinosaurs, but I figured it'd be cool to have one that focuses directly on the paleo art. So, and I'm not sure about Facebook Live. I thought I saw something where people could join in or something like that, but I'm not sure. It's kind of, I don't know, seems kind of finicky, like even between my Facebook page and my and another one doesn't and gives me different options. So that's another thing. I'm not exactly sure what you can and can't do on Facebook as far as having more than one person. I've also heard that there's a possibility of using Skype for live broadcasting. But I'm not sure exactly. So still looking into it. We'll figure it out soon enough. So I'm just going over the feet and the legs that I'd done earlier. They need some more work, and I think I'm actually going to have to pull this right off the stand to be able to do that part. So I'm going to leave that bottom leg. You can't even really tell right now anyway. And I'm going to start working on bulking out one of these arms. I just got to check quickly for comments. Flipping over to the YouTube. Oh, Tim's on YouTube. Always also be looking great. Thanks, Tim. Chris agrees that the live would be better also. So, yeah, I definitely think live's the way to go. All right, so I'm going to start putting the clay around the arm, bulking him out. Now, the thing with this, because it has these protofeathers that are almost like a fur, you won't really see all the muscular detail in the arms, or well, in most of it, actually. The only place there's going to be scales is around the beak area, the front of the head, and then I think from the kneecap down, it's also going to be scales. So the rest of it will kind of be really fluffed out and bulky, so you won't see much muscle. But I think that's been an issue. That was a big thing back in the 90s when dinosaurs were being reconstructed. Some people were actually doing what we now refer to as shrink wrapping the dinosaurs. And I don't think that that's exactly how they would have looked. I actually, on the other screen of my computer that you can't see, I have a whole bunch of bird anatomy up with the muscles and stuff. And when you look at it, you can see that beyond the muscle, with the fat and the skin and then all the feathers, there's a lot going on. They're a lot bigger than what their skeletons would indicate. So it's kind of interesting, something to keep in mind when sculpting. I think the best thing to do if you're going to sculpt a lot is to get books on anatomy that's close to the subject that you're trying to do and really study it. I remember the other day there when I was doing this, I think I spent probably a good 45 minutes just pulling up pictures of muscle structure in chickens and turkeys, ostriches, and just really just poring over them, staring at them, blowing them up and looking at close-ups. And I find that's the best way to learn this kind of stuff, is just to study anatomy. Yeah, this arm is very, very tiny. And it didn't have feathered, like it didn't have wings, like if you can see in the background, I put these wing-like feathers on the arm of the Dinosaurs. But that's speculative, like that's not a for sure thing. And I'm pretty sure the deal with this guy is that he actually had the protofeathers only, so his arms are going to be more like fur looking than feathered. So that's kind of the look I'm going for with this guy. Another thing I'll say about this clay too, and it probably is the same with a lot of clay, is that you can overwork it. Today I had to actually stop because I found that I was just getting the clay was too warm, too soft. I couldn't sculpt anymore. It was just actually creating more of a mess. So you gotta kind of figure out what you're going to do with stuff like that and just work in sections. So for this clay, like right now, it's already fairly warm, and I'm probably not going to be able to do the whole arm. So what I might have to do is do the top half of the arm and kind of just let the clay get cool, and then come back when it's cool and stuck to the armature a little more, and then add to it again. And for this arm, well, both arms, I'm probably only going to try to get the top part done anyway, because what I want to do is just make sure that it lines up with the rest of the sculpture, and from there I can then take it off and do actually better work on it without having it on. There we go. Get that tilted down. Actually, while I'm tilting, I'll check for comments quickly. All right. There we go. So you can see we're starting to get some shape in the arm. Because this arm is so long and skinny, it's making it very hard to sculpt as well. It's moving around a lot. So it's going to be a little bit harder than I thought. Oop. Yeah, and it keeps pulling off too. Ouch. There we go. Just dip my finger in the rubbing alcohol, which is okay to do sometimes because, or water, because I find what happens when you're using your hands. Your hands actually stick to the clay and pull it back off the sculpture, which I'm having a terrible time with right now, actually. For some reason, it just seems to want to lift right back off the sculpture. So we're going to put a little bit on the other arm, flip it around. And we'll let that one sit. So Henry says that a close relative of the EPI Ducks had scales along the base of the tail. So kind of a thought on this guy. So thanks for the input. That's actually good to know. I never really thought of it that way. That's kind of what I did with the Dinosaur. I put all the scales at the bottom and then kind of had feathers hanging over it. And you know what? That actually wouldn't be a bad idea. Going with a certain picture. And you know what? It probably actually has scales on the base, but it doesn't show you the base of the tail. And I wish I could pull the picture up for you guys so you could see it. Yeah, there's a way to do screen sharing, and I don't know how to do it now, but I will post the picture. No, it won't allow me to do that. But I'll try and add the picture later. But yeah, that's a good idea, actually, to kind of put some scales at the bottom, the base of the tail, and maybe the underbelly, kind of the same as I did with the Dinosaur. See, and that's why doing these live videos are really good, because, you know, there's other people watching that have really good ideas and that also study dinosaurs and do paleo art. And that's what makes it fun, you know, to bounce ideas off of each other and figure out new ways to do things. I just need more of a paddle type tool for this part to kind of get it into the It doesn't matter right now. It kind of looks a little messy, but that's okay, because I'm just kind of roughing out the arm. So once it cools down, we'll smooth it all out, add some more detail. These arms are so small, I might have to actually completely sculpt the top half and then come back and sculpt the bottom half, just so it has something to hold on to. But if I was going to do the arms separately, which I will do a little bit of this time, I'll make sure that I do not bake the main body like I did with the Dinosaur. That was a mistake. So I had to do some reworking when I put the arms on the Dinosaur. Okay, so I have a question from someone over here who's asking, what kind of clay do I prefer, and also wire for your base? Okay, so the clay is two types. It's a Abe's epoxy sculpt and super sculpting. You can't see the Abe's epoxy sculpt on this guy because it's underneath. I usually put it directly over the armature, and then I use sculpting for the detailed work. As far as armature wire, that's really difficult to say because I don't really know the gauges when I'm using them. Like I have a whole bunch of armature wire that I bought everywhere from the art supply store to the dollar store. And but the main thickness for something like this, and I'm pretty sure it actually has it underneath this one, is a coat hanger. So there's a little block of wood in the middle here, and then there's coat hanger wire out here, and a coat hanger wire coming up to the skull, and then there's also coat hanger wire. I don't know, probably half the thickness of a coat hanger. I did that purposely because I want to actually be able to kind of repose the animal as I go along. If I don't like these hands in the position, I can bend them. I can bend each finger to the exact position that I want them. So that's kind of why I've used a thin bendable wire. For some animals, I use a really thick armature wire. If I'm doing like a big, heavy sauropod, like I've got a Allosaurus out in the garage that's absolutely massive. It's it would be a 1/20th scale to the largest specimen at 115 feet long. So I think the sculpture is 68 inches long or something like that. So it's like almost a 6-foot long sculpture. So for that, I'm carving it out of foam, but I'm using the what is it, the 1/8? I think it's 1/8 or maybe even 1/4 armature wire. So it depends on the sculpture, but most times the best wire you can use that's durable enough is just a coat hanger under your closet. Works great. You don't need anything more than that. I think what I should have maybe done for this guy was, even though the muscles won't be seen at the end, I should have still built him up in that way. Kind of put the muscle on the top first and get it situated. You can see that these arms are just giving me a super hard time. That's okay, we'll still get it done. I've actually had Sculpey that was so bad I actually had to super glue the unbaked Sculpey just to hold it in place so I could get is that I find it doesn't do the exact same thing. It kind of sticks better. It doesn't lift up on you, at least for the most part. The epoxy sculpt is great too. You could sculpt the whole animal out of an epoxy, but it does have a drying time. It's a chemical drying thing instead of or drying time by chemical rather than by air or by baking. So it if you're not well on your way in the first hour, that's pretty much all you have. I think it's up to an hour and a bit for that. All right, so this looks like complete crap right here because it just will not stick to the, yeah, it's not even going to stick at all. I'm not sure why it's doing that. Yeah, we're going to rip that right back off because it's not sticking anyway. So it'll just, what happens is if it gets these spots in it where it's and a lot. When you bake it, that's a prime spot for it cracking, so we don't want that to happen. So we're going to just do this kind of a different way. So first thing I'm going to do is in here, I'm going to put a lump right there like that, and that's going to be the elbow. Sometimes a thicker spot will do that. No, Tim, monster clay never hardens completely. It gets hard, but it's always reusable. So, I mean, it's hard enough that you can make a mold and do what you need to do. But it's never done like epoxy. And it has a lot more properties than both. You know, like it has all the properties of a wax, which is, I'm pretty sure, like an industry standard for toy companies. They like to use wax. And special effects. So it's really good to use, and I think a lot of people are switching over to it. So, and I heard the company was making their own polymer clay, which would be kind of cool if that was true. I was watching a Casey Love video recently on the Stan Winston School, and I think he said something about they were doing that. So that'd be kind of cool. The company that makes monster clay is one of those companies where they work with people in the special effects business. So they know what's good because the people who sculpt in the movie industry they're kind of the top guys, and they have to do things like sculpting under really quick deadlines and stuff. So all right, see, that's starting to work a little bit better. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. So Tim is asking because monster clay is an oil-based clay and you're making a mold, which a two-part mold requires a clay to make the half of the mold. Wouldn't the monster clay just get stuck in the mold? Well, no. I'm pretty sure it's because monster clay is not a straight oil base, but I'm not 100% sure. So what I would say as a person who hasn't actually made a casting yet, to be super safe, use wet clay for your half of the mold. That would be your absolute safest bet. But I mean, you could always ask someone who actually has done it before. I mean, maybe there's no problem at all. I don't know. That's the thing about it. But I will learn very soon because, like I said, I'm doing the 2 Allosaurus in that type of material, and they will definitely be molded and casted for sure. I don't see. It's like this clay is just impossible. Just impossible tonight. It just does not want to sit on that other. What I'm going to actually do. Okay, so someone is saying by layer when epoxy, start with the base, then let it harden, then layer in the detail later. Okay, so you're saying that you use your entire process is to sculpt with epoxy. Which, yes, that makes sense. You would have to do it in layers and be able to get your detail in. Okay, so this clay is not sticking properly and I can't really reach what I want to. So there's another way of doing this. I've just got the arm set in right now. Super glue. So just tacked in too. Shouldn't be very hard. It's already wiggling around. So we're going to cut it like that. You can see we can pull it right off. And that makes it a lot easier. Yeah, Chris said the same thing. Just use water base. So that makes sense. Water base is would be your best bet. Okay, so now we've got this off, and we can work this out a little bit different. We can see that it still is just does not want to stick at all. So I might end up doing the arms in a different material. See, normally what I would do is build the arms up in two halves, but again, because they're so skinny, they just don't want to stick very well. But I've got this kind of stuck now. So another thing I like to do, and I find it pulls all the clay down, is I use this tool that I made just with some wire. Of course, it probably isn't going to show you guys. No. But I'll come in and rake it different ways with the wire, and it kind of pulls the clay down, makes it a little bit easier. I think because the wire goes right through, well, most of the way through, it kind of pulls it down onto the other layer. Yeah. This is just too small of a piece. So no matter what I do, it just keeps bunching up on me. So it just does not want to work. So I think for this, I'm actually going to switch to a different method completely. And I'll show you guys actually, because I can do it very quickly. it's on there, but it's not holding, and it's kind of shifting all over the place. That happens sometimes when it's really small. So what I'm actually going to quickly do is I'm going to go behind here. And I'm going to grab this stuff right here. So this is the Aves epoxy sculpt, and I'm going to mix up a little bit of that. I'm going to rip this right off because it's just not sticking. And I even sanded that first, so I'm not sure why the clay just doesn't want to stick to that part. It just happens sometimes. Actually, that's one of those cool things. Let me know how you guys solved it, and we'll see how it works, because it's just it's not working for me. It'll be fine. I'm going to come back and use it later on to add the final detail. But for now, I'm just going to mix up a little bit of this epoxy sculpt. I don't need much. So for this stuff, you need 2 even size pieces. That's why it's good to roll it into a ball. For some reason, I bought brown, so it's like a dark brown. I don't know why I did that. I thought it'd be cool, but it's actually not. That's too dark. I don't even like working with it. So I'm going to go back to the natural gray color that I normally use when this is gone. Yeah, still a little bit. It's actually good though when things don't work out, because it's a good way to show you guys right on the fly how to improvise and do things a little bit differently. So I think we got it. Yeah, that looks good. So this stuff, when you're first mixing it, it can become, well, it is extremely sticky. So I can kind of roll it in my hands a little bit, and then I have to put some water on there, which I'm going to do in just a minute. This is one of those deals where if you mix it in, all right, we're almost there. So while I'm finishing mixing that up, there we go, just about. Then we'll add it to that first hand, and then we'll add it to the other one. You can see that it's getting better, nice and mixed up now. All right, so now this is where I want another ketchup cup. I want to add water because I want to be able to dip my hands in it whenever I need to. All right. So what I'll do, because I'm still going to add a layer of Sculpey over top of this even, I'm going to put big scratches in it. or maybe even like a deep cross hatch, so that I can have a place for the Sculpey to set in. There we go. See, that has no problem sticking. So we're going to do the top half first. I'm not going to do the hands yet. All right, smear down this. Got to remember where it's sitting so that we get the basic shape of the muscles right, even though you're not going to see them completely. All right, we'll add a little bit more. Oh, Tim says thanks again for the link. Oh yeah, that's a good place. Actually, that's a good thing to mention too. Thanks for the reminder, Tim. One of the things you'll notice about this guy, and I'll spin him around so you can see while I'm doing this, because I'm kind of doing this off the camera, is glass eyes. You can see the glass eyes in his head, and I think that it just adds so much to a sculpture when you use glass eyes. So I definitely recommend getting glass eyes and putting them into your sculpture. Another thing that you can do that some of you might not be aware of, it's become a little more popular lately, is when you buy a resin model kit, or well, even a plastic or vinyl one. You could do it for anything really, but in the resin garage kit, it's become a thing to you drill a hole into the resin piece, and then you install glass eyes in place of where the eye slot was, and it just adds so much awesome detail. Looks a million times better. I remember when I did it the first time, I was all nervous because I paid like $180 or something for this really cool resin kit, and was like, oh, if I drill into it and I mess it up, it's gonna look so bad. But I put these glass eyes into it, and wow, what a difference. It was just amazing. Like, so much more realism in it. So even if you buy a resin kit, you can always install glass eyes into it. Now let me show you this right here. Now my light is, I need to get another light, unfortunately, because it's not shining properly. And of course my other light's busted, so, oh, there we go. So you can see how I'm laying the clay on now. It's getting nice and wide. That's, and then I'm going to sculpt right into there. I'm going to actually move this back because I'm kind of forgetting that I'm not in the camera, and then you guys are just staring at the sculpture and nothing's happening. So that's not really a good thing either. So sorry about that. Try to keep in here as much as possible. Just going to lay this over top. And then take the water. Like I said, when you smooth it out with the water, it looks so much better. Now, I want that to kind of be out like a flap. Oops. Then we'll just to see. I don't want it back too far. Nope. Of course, now it doesn't. Oh, there we go. Okay, so we want it on about that angle. That's fine. Okay. That's good. And this clay is really super soft right now. It has different properties at different times. So in about 30 minutes, this will actually become a lot more like clay. Right now, it's more like plumber's epoxy, like a straight adhesive. I mean, you can sculpt with it, but it's more brittle. So what we're going to do is we're going to set that down for a minute, and then we're going to pull this arm off as well. There we go. And we're going to do the same thing on this arm. And then we're going to clean that up a little bit, and then I think we're going to end the video there. It didn't quite go as I expected it to, but that's okay. Again, like I said, because it's kind of a good way to show improvising and figuring out other ways to do the same thing. So it's going to be just fine. Wrap that around there. And then we'll test the piece. All right. Just want to check here. Oh, wow. Didn't realize we've been going for an hour already. Oh, time flies when you're having fun. There we go. Drop that on the ground. So I've been watching the Stan Winston School of Character Arts. I've been watching some videos today. And I would definitely recommend getting a subscription to that if you're interested in learning how to do this. There is so much good stuff on there, so many tutorials that are really, really awesome by some of the top guys who have worked in the movie industry and made a lot of cool things. Well, Stan Winston is responsible, as we all know, for the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park. So, and those are the same guys that are on there teaching, which is pretty awesome. You know, to be able to learn sculpting tips from those very same people that kind of got us all interested in it when we were young anyway, I think is pretty awesome. So we're almost done this year. And see, this is going to be great. And then what I'll probably even do is the point back here will probably be sanded down tomorrow when it's all dry. And then I'll put it back in. All right, we're almost done there. It's really gummy still, so it's hard to get it exactly right. So Put that right there. So I think the best thing to do would be to sculpt these arms pretty much right to the way I want them. We'll just get the hands and the arms done possibly tomorrow. And then once that's done, then we'll attach them to the body. We'll add to the body what we need to. All right, so I think that's a lot better. It's kind of looking a little silly, but let's smooth it out. And I'll show you one last thing, and then we'll shut her down. Just going to smooth out the inside of it here. Get all nice and smooth out. I'm going to let it sit down for a minute. I'm going to go back and grab the first one. All right, so we're just going to take that original wire tool and just start scraping into this guy. And I definitely want to do this because I want to make sure that there's deep grooves in this for when I put the Sculpey over top. Sometimes I wish there was like a plumber's epoxy that was like a slow set, but not too slow. Because really, if there was like a 20-minute, I could mix this up and have it done and then get right back to the Sculpey. But this stuff takes 24 hours before it completely cures. So I'm not going to add Sculpey over top of it tonight. So as far as the monster clay goes, what I will also do is be sure to make at least one live video working on the Allosaurus, so you guys can all see the properties of the monster clay in action. There we go. Much better. All right, so that right there looks a lot better. And we'll stick it in just into the socket, just to kind of show you guys. I'll grab the other one. There we go. That's what I was looking to achieve in the beginning. That looks a lot better, and I'm just going to quickly do the same thing to the other one. One thing I will say about the monster clay, and I know, Tim, you seem like you're pretty curious to know more about it. That's really awesome is I actually melted it down and I dumped it in the head mold of my Camptosaurus. and within about a minute it was, well, probably even less than, it was cooled off, and I pulled it out, and then I have a clay version of something I've already sculpted. So if you wanted to sculpt something or that you did previously, or sorry, add to something, make it better, so you've learned something since then, say how to achieve more skin detail or something along those lines, that's another thing that monster clay is really, really phenomenal for. So like even my young Dinosaurus, I'm going to do a version with the mouth open. So instead of re-sculpting the whole thing from scratch just to do that, I can pour this monster clay directly into the head and neck mold, and then I can pull it out, and then I can cut along the mouth line and open the mouth, which is awesome. Obviously, while I'm doing that, I'll adjust the neck as well so that it doesn't look exactly the same. And I'm going to do the same thing for the feet. So I'm going to make him probably with his mouth open running. I think that would look really cool. That's something that won't happen right away, of course. That'll be some more down the line. But definitely another one of those reasons why you want to try out the monster clay. All right, so we're getting to it. See, that kind of looks a lot better as well. So just gonna quickly flip over, make sure there's nothing else going on. So I'm gonna stick that back where it belongs so that it doesn't stick to the table when it's drying. And this stuff's pretty durable anyway, so it should be fine. Yeah, it's gonna go up like that, but we'll glue it tomorrow. We're just gonna leave them sit in there so that they can get oh, we're scraping. So there, now you can see it. There's the basic idea. And I could actually like give this stuff maybe another 10 minutes. It's starting to lose its stickiness now, but give it 10, 15 minutes till it gets a little bit harder, and then go along, and I could actually sculpt some detail into that. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just add some sculpty layers over it. But that'll be for tomorrow, possibly, or another time. But this guy is coming along. So anyway, thank you all for watching. I'm going to end it here, and I will come back with another video next week. Possibly, I may not do it on Wednesday night because I'm going to go watch Jurassic World next week. So I thought about doing a different style of video that's not necessarily completely paleo art related. I guess it would be in the sense of Jurassic Park, but I was thinking of waiting until I saw the movie and then doing like a review video. So something a little bit different than what I normally do, but I thought it'd be kind of cool to give my take on the movie after I've seen it. So it's only a week away. So anyway, I'll probably come back with that. Anyway, guys, thank you all for watching, and have a good night.